wailing of twin babies pierced through the small house like a cry from a wounded soul. Mary and Naomi were barely 3 months old, still clumsy with life, their tiny arms flailing in the air, as if reaching out for someone who had already turned her back. In the cramped bedroom, a suitcase lay open on the floor, half filled with clothes. Each motion of Linda's hand as she shoved her blouses inside was violent, sharp, final, like someone at war with the walls around her. Peter stood near the doorway, one arm bracing himself against the wall, the other hanging limply by his side. His face was pale, not from anger, but from something deeper shock, despair, a silent scream that never made it past his throat. "The babies are crying," he said softly, his voice cracking like old glass. "They need their mother." Linda didn't even look up. Her jaw tightened, her eyes glued to the suitcase as if it held the last remnants of her dignity. "They are no longer my concern," she replied coldly. "I'm leaving you." Peter took a hesitant step forward. "Please don't. If not for me, then for them. These children. I didn't marry you to suffer." She snapped, finally spinning around to face him. Her face was full of fury, a mask of someone who had decided long ago that love wasn't enough. "You lost your job. You moved us into this shoebox. I want more from life, and clearly I'm not going to get it here." And then the words that would echo in Peter's heart forever. "To be honest, I don't even care if they live or die." With a final yank, she zipped the bag shut, stormed past him and slammed the front door so hard the frame rattled. The silence that followed was deafening, only broken by the desperate cries of his daughters. Peter walked over to the bed where Mary and Naomi lay red-faced and trembling. He scooped them both into his arms, holding them close to his chest. The room smelled of baby powder and sorrow. He rocked them gently, his tears falling onto their soft foreheads. "I may not have much," he whispered, "but I promise you, my little girls, I will be the best father in the whole world." That night, Peter barely slept. There was no food, no milk, and not a single coin in his wallet. The landlord would soon demand rent. The babies cried every few hours, hungry and confused. Still, Peter didn't break. He had something stronger than comfort. He had purpose. He had them. The next morning, long before the sun rose, Peter strapped the twins to his chest using a tattered scarf. He borrowed a neighbour's wheelbarrow and walked to the bustling market in search of work. The city was waking up. Horns honked in frustration. Vendors barked about yams, tomatoes, and peppers. The smell of fish, sweat, and hope hung in the air. He began by pushing load sacks of rice boxes of fruit for a few naira at a time. Some people stared at him, this lean man with 2 babies on his chest hunched over a wheelbarrow. Some smirked, some shook their heads in pity. An elderly woman approached him near the banana stand. "You're doing a great job, my son," she said, her eyes soft with sympathy. She pressed a worn 500 naira note into his hand. "For the babies." Peter could barely speak. He bowed slightly, muttering a grateful, "Thank you, Ma." But not all were kind. One loudmouth woman carrying a bucket of snails scoffed loudly. "When you were enjoying yourself in bed, did you think about responsibility, how see your life?" Peter didn't respond. He didn't have the luxury of anger. He had mouths to feed, and those mouths were more important than anyone's opinion. By evening, he had made just enough to buy baby formula and a few sachets of pure water. At the pharmacy, the attendant, a kind-faced man, helped him choose affordable essentials. With the milk in one hand and 2 babies on his chest, Peter walked home with a tired but grateful heart. And so life began to take on a rhythm. Days blended into nights. The market became his second home. He pushed loads, mopped floors, ran errands, anything honest for a few coins. He returned every evening with aching muscles but joy in his chest. Mary and Naomi began to grow. They recognized his face, giggled when he tickled their tiny feet, and clung to him like the world depended on it. But Peter was only one man, and the burden grew heavier. One Monday morning, as he tightened the scarf around Naomi's back, a soft voice called out, "Let me help you today." He turned. It was Mama Caro, the elderly neighbor who had always offered a smile but little conversation. She stepped forward, her wrinkled hands already reaching for the twins. "The sun is too hot for these little ones," she said. "Let me take care of them till you return." Peter hesitated. Trust wasn't easy, but the kindness in her eyes disarmed him. He handed over his girls and whispered, "Thank you, Ma." That day he worked lighter and faster. When he returned, Mama Caro was singing to the babies. They were laughing, clapping their hands. From then on, Mama Caro became their daytime guardian. She fed them, bathed them, wrapped them in clean cloth, and rocked them to sleep. Her love didn't replace their mother, but it softened the wound. Years passed. Mary and Naomi, now in school uniforms, carried small lunch packs. Peter paid their school fees with the sweat from his brow. He also taught them kindness, honesty, and humility. They watched him kneel every night in prayer, asking God to bless them, to guide them. At 18, the girls graduated from secondary school. They had worked hard, studied under candlelight, and sat for the JAMB exam with trembling fingers. When the results arrived, Peter nearly fainted. Mary scored 325, Naomi 341. Both had secured admission to study medicine and surgery. Peter lifted the slips and kissed them. "My daughters," he beamed. "Doctors, the whole city will hear of this." But when the girls went to sleep that night, Peter sat alone in the dark. The joy on his face was gone. He stared at his hands, calloused and cracked. The fees, the books, the hostel expenses. He had no idea where the money would come from. He bowed his head and murmured, "God, I can't do this. I've come so far, and now I'm failing them." But the next morning, he rose with a resolve forged from fire. He dressed, walked to the house of a wealthy businessman nearby, and knocked. The man opened the door in silk pajamas, eyebrows raised. Peter dropped to his knees. "Please, sir, let me be your houseboy. I'll clean, cook, wash, anything. Just help me send my daughters to university." The man shook his head. "2 girls in medical school. That's no small thing. I can't help you." Peter tried again and again. He went to 5 houses in one day, begging, pleading. He offered his strength, his time, his life. No one said yes. 2 days later, Peter called his daughters into the room. His eyes were tired, his voice low. "I'm sorry, my girls. I tried everything." Mary rushed to his side. "Daddy, you have nothing to apologize for. We know what you've done for us." Naomi nodded, her eyes glistening. "Even if we don't go to school, we'll be okay. We have you, and that's enough." They hugged him tight, 3 hearts beating as one in that small, humble room. But that night, when the house was quiet, Peter knelt beside his bed, his hands clenched into fists. He whispered to God with desperation that bordered on madness. "Please help me. I can't do this. But you can. They deserve better." He cried, his body shaking, his heart spilling years of pain and hope into the silence. Little did he know the heavens were listening. The sun beat down on the rooftops of the little town, the air heavy with hope and quiet desperation. Mary and Naomi had made their decision. There would be no tears, no regrets. The morning after their father's tearful confession, they walked to the university to defer their admission. It wasn't the end. It was simply a delay. They had a plan now. If their father had spent his life lifting them up, then it was their turn to carry him. For the next few weeks, the sisters walked from street to street, knocking on doors, facing rejection after rejection. Job after job turned them down. Too young, too inexperienced, too poor. But they didn't give up. They couldn't. Then one day, they found a neat, modest restaurant nestled between 2 dusty buildings. A small "Help Wanted" sign hung crookedly in the window. It wasn't much, but it was something. They stepped in and greeted the owner with practiced smiles. She asked them a few simple questions, mostly about character, and hired them on the spot. From that day, Mary and Naomi worked like they had never worked before. They were waitresses, dishwashers, cleaners, and sometimes even therapists to grumpy customers. They served food, with warmth, greeted guests with grace, and scrubbed floors until their fingers went numb. But not once did they complain. Customers noticed, some left tips. Some returned just to see the twin angels, as a few called them, but not everyone who walked in was kind. One afternoon, a man with thick gold chains and a leering smile pulled Mary aside and whispered inappropriate offers. She pushed him away firmly. Naomi nearby glared him down until he left. They had no mother, but they had each other. And dignity was one thing they would never trade for comfort. Every night they returned home and counted every naira they earned. Their father would sit beside them, a quiet prayer in his heart. Though tired, he looked at his daughters and saw something unshakable. He had planted seeds in soil full of struggle, and now they were blooming before his eyes. After 7 months, Mary and Naomi had saved enough to start a small food kiosk of their own. It was nothing fancy, a wooden stand with a corrugated iron roof, but they painted it bright yellow, added flowers to the counter, and named it Twin Blessings. The town loved it. Their jollof rice, their pepper soup, their bean cakes, everything was delicious. But more than the food, it was the atmosphere that drew people in. It felt like home. Customers left smiling, always promising to return. They took photos and shared them online. Slowly, word spread. The kiosk turned into a small indoor restaurant. Business was growing. And then on a particularly hot Thursday afternoon, fate arrived in a black briefcase. The lunch rush had just ended. Mary was wiping down tables while Naomi collected plates. A family had just left when Mary noticed something under one of the chairs. "Naomi," she called, her voice low but curious. "Come look at this." Naomi walked over and gasped. It was a sleek black briefcase, polished and heavy. They exchanged glances. Mary reached down and picked it up. It had no label, no name tag. "What do we do?" Naomi whispered. "There might be money inside," Mary said, half joking. Naomi raised an eyebrow. "You think we should open it?" After a long pause, Mary clicked the latches open. Their eyes widened. Inside the briefcase were stacks of crisp American dollars bound in neat bundles. On top were folders, documents, papers that looked important, legal documents, contracts, bank forms. This wasn't just lost luggage. This was power in a box. "We have to return it," Naomi said immediately. Mary nodded. "Yes, but we should take it home for now, just until someone comes looking for it." It was that night they told their father. Peter's eyes lingered on the briefcase for a long moment. "You did the right thing," he said softly. "This isn't ours, and what isn't ours will never bless us." The next morning, the girls arrived early at the restaurant. As they approached, they saw a man in a sharp black suit pacing outside. He looked anxious, glancing at the ground, as if retracing steps. Mary approached him gently. "Good morning, sir. Are you looking for something?" He turned sharply. "Yes, a black briefcase. Very important. I left it here yesterday. I'm going crazy." Naomi opened their cloth sack and pulled out the briefcase. "Is this it?" The man's face lit up like the morning sun. He grabbed the briefcase, eyes wide with relief. "Yes, oh my God, thank you." Before they could even ask his name, he hopped into a shiny black car and sped off. Naomi blinked. "Wait, no, thank you gift. Not even $5. Mary chuckled. "Let it go, Lady Dollars." They laughed and went inside. The day passed like any other serving cleaning cooking, but something had shifted. They felt lighter proud of the decision they'd made. Around midday the next day, the same black car pulled up again. This time, it didn't zoom off. The man stepped out dressed smartly in designer shoes and a gold wristwatch. He smiled as he approached them. "I owe you two more than you know," he said. "My name is Prince Tony." Mary and Naomi exchanged wide-eyed glances. "Prince, really? The documents you returned, they were worth more than money. You saved my business. You saved my family. and for that I want to give you something more than just thanks." He gestured for them to follow. Hesitant but curious, they did. He led them to a massive building not far from town. A beautiful structure with glass doors, tiled floors, and elegant furniture. Inside, the air smelled of vanilla and success. "This is yours," he said. "Fully furnished. Use it for your restaurant. No rent. No strings attached." The girls stood frozen, their mouths parted in disbelief. "Sir," Mary whispered, "we can't accept this." "But you already have." He smiled. Sometimes blessings come through honesty. By the time they reached home, their feet barely touched the ground. They found their father at the market, sipping a cold drink by his wheelbarrow. "Daddy!" Naomi cried, running toward him. Peter turned, startled. Both girls threw themselves into his arms, laughing and crying. "What is it?" he asked, wiping his forehead. "We have a surprise," Mary said. They took him to the building. Naomi threw her arms wide. "It's ours, for real. We have our own restaurant, Daddy." Peter stood still, speechless. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face, tears pooling in his eyes. "God has answered," he whispered. "God has truly answered." That evening, they sat around a modest table in their small home, still trying to absorb what had happened. Laughter filled the air. Peter stared at his daughters, seeing not just the children he'd raised, but the women they had become. Then Mary spoke. "Dad, it's time for you to stop pushing that wheelbarrow." Peter raised an eyebrow. "You're not getting younger," Naomi added. "This restaurant, it's more than enough now. We'll take care of you. Just rest." He opened his mouth to argue, but stopped when he saw their eyes. That same fire he once carried now lived in them. He nodded. "I'll rest," he said, "but not because I'm tired, because I trust you." The days that followed were filled with movement. Prince Tony had not only given them a building, he had equipped it. Shiny pots and pans chairs, and cutlery menus and signs. Their dream had been upgraded beyond anything they imagined. Business boomed, customers poured in. The restaurant became the heart of the town, known for its great food, joyful atmosphere, and two young women whose kindness had rewritten their destiny. But life, unpredictable as always, had one more surprise waiting. One afternoon, a woman walked into the restaurant. She looked tired, her eyes hollow, her clothes dusty. "I'm looking for work," she said softly. "I can mop, wash plates, anything." The staff brought her to Mary and Naomi. The twins looked at her, something about her stirring an unease neither could explain, but their hearts were soft. "We can't pay much," Naomi said, "but you're welcome." The woman bowed her head. "Thank you." Her name, she said, was Linda. From the moment Linda walked into the restaurant, something shifted in the air, subtle but undeniable. Mary and Naomi couldn't quite explain it. She had introduced herself humbly, her voice trembling as she asked for a chance. Her eyes looked tired, worn down, not just by life, but by guilt. Still, the twins gave her the job washing dishes, sweeping, staying out of the spotlight. It wasn't pity, it was principle. Their father had taught them to help, even when it hurt. Days passed. Linda was quiet, polite. She avoided eye contact with Peter whenever he visited the restaurant. She never asked about the owners. She worked long hours, kept her head down, and seemed grateful for the little she had. But fate, so fond of twists, was already circling. One afternoon, Peter came to the restaurant to drop off fresh plantains from a local farmer. He stepped into the kitchen, humming softly, and froze. She was there, his past wrapped in an apron. Linda hadn't seen him. She was busy scrubbing a pot. He stepped back, heart thudding, not from love, but from something colder memory. The years hadn't erased her. They'd only carved her sharper. That night, he sat his daughters down. "Do you know your dishwasher?" he asked gently. "Yes," Mary replied. "A woman named Linda. Why?" Peter exhaled slowly. "She's your mother." Silence. Naomi's eyes widened. "What? She left when you were babies? You've never seen her face because..." I burned all the photos. I wanted to protect you. Mary clenched her jaw, the old wound opening like it had never healed. She's been working here all this time. Peter nodded. She didn't recognize you. Maybe she didn't want to. The next day, they confronted her. Mary walked into the kitchen, her posture stiff, her eyes blazing. "Do you know who we are?" Linda turned. The sponge slipped from her hand. Her lips parted, trembling. I had a feeling," she whispered. Mary crossed her arms. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I was ashamed," Linda said, voice cracking. "I don't deserve to call you mine." "You're right," Mary snapped. She pulled a wad of cash from the till and placed it on the counter. "Take this. It's more than you've earned. Leave." Linda didn't move. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please. I've made so many mistakes. I was young, foolish. I thought I was chasing happiness. I only found regret. I'm sorry." Mary's voice quivered. "When we were hungry, where were you? When our father carried us through the market with no money, no food, where were you?" Naomi stepped forward, gently placing her hand on Mary's shoulder. "Don't send her away. Not yet." Mary shook her head. "You forgive too easily." "No," Naomi said softly. "I hurt too. But I also remember how our father never gave up on people, even her." Mary walked away, wiping her eyes. Linda remained in the restaurant. The twins moved her from dishwashing to a supervisory role, more dignity, less labor. Customers seemed to like her. She had a warm smile, a gentle touch with the elderly, a knack for making shy children laugh. For a moment, it seemed like maybe, just maybe, she had changed. But time is the ultimate revealer of character. Soon the warmth in Linda's voice turned sharp. She barked orders at younger staff, nitpicked waitresses for every mistake, and snapped at anyone who moved too slowly. Morale dropped. Customers noticed. Mary and Naomi sat her down. "You're becoming someone we can't recognize," Naomi said calmly. "This isn't how we treat people." "I'm your mother," Linda hissed. "You dare lecture me like a stranger." Mary narrowed her eyes. "Don't ever raise your voice at us. You don't get to call yourself our mother and then destroy everything we've built." Linda's face contorted with bitterness. "Oh, I see. You'd rather waste your money on that lazy man, your father, while giving me nothing but scraps. He sits at home while I work like a servant." Mary stood. "Say one more bad word about my father and you won't have to worry about working here ever again." The conversation ended with silence as heavy as thunderclouds. The next morning, Linda came late. She was cold, aggressive, dismissive. The restaurant's magic had disappeared. Customers felt it. So did staff. Peter watched it all quietly, then spoke to his daughters at home. "She is still your mother," he said slowly. "But if she stays, everything you've built will fall." They knew he was right. The next day, they sat Linda down once more. "You can't work here anymore," Naomi said gently. Linda exploded. "I knew it. He poisoned you against me. That useless wheelbarrow man, he's always hated me." Naomi shook her head. "No one poisoned us. You did that yourself." They gave her a modest shop outside her home. It wasn't punishment. It was mercy. She could run her own business, have her own space. But she left their lives with fire in her eyes and venom on her tongue. With Linda gone, peace returned. The restaurant flourished once more. Customers returned. New branches opened in other cities. Mary and Naomi became a name, a brand, symbols of grace and grit. One evening, after the day's work, they sat with their father, now grey-haired and slowing down. "We're ready for something else," Mary said. "A new chapter." "We've been offered scholarships," Naomi added, "to study medicine abroad." Peter smiled weakly. "That was always the dream, wasn't it?" "Yes," Mary said, then hesitated. "But it's not the dream anymore." Naomi nodded. "We love this business. This is God's answer to your prayers." Peter's eyes moistened. He didn't argue. This restaurant fed us, saved us, and now we want it to grow, not for us, but for others. We want to give jobs, build schools, maybe a clinic. That's our mission now. Time passed. And with time, love arrived. 2 young men, kind, respectful, God-fearing, entered their lives. Not rich, but rich in character. One was a baker, the other a software developer. Love bloomed quietly, beautifully. Mary and Naomi chose to marry on the same day. But before they finalized anything, they sat down with Peter once again. "We're worried," Naomi said, "about you being alone." Peter looked puzzled. "Alone? You deserve someone too," Mary said. "Not everyone is like Linda. We've met someone. She works in one of our branches. A widow. 2 children. She's kind. Steady. Strong." Peter chuckled softly. "You're setting me up." They nodded. He took a deep breath. "I'll need time." 2 days later, he met her, Madame Ruth. Their first conversation was slow but comfortable. By the end of the week, Peter had made his decision. And so, on one beautiful Saturday morning, 3 brides walked down the aisle. Mary radiant in lace and joy, Naomi glowing in elegance and peace, and Madame Ruth, gentle and graceful, holding Peter's hand as if it had always belonged there. The church erupted with applause. At the center of it all sat Mama Caro, now frail but proud, wearing a regal head wrap and surrounded by love. She had no children of her own, but on this day, she was the mother of the bride, twice over. After the wedding, as the sun set and music filled the sky, Peter looked at his daughters, no longer little girls, no longer needing protection. He whispered, "We made it." Mary squeezed his hand. "Because of you." Naomi added, "You were our father, our mother, our everything." That night, the stars shone brighter than usual, not because the sky had changed, but because love had endured. And in the end, love always wins.